finally came out. Square nut. This one must not be. Hey, got it. I actually put a square nut on this one. That'll be heavy. It will be heavy. How can I get a strap on that thing? Well, don't have to worry about that, I guess. Oh. Hey guys, my name is Evan and welcome to Country View Acres. So behind me here, this is my latest purchase. I was originally looking for a hay wagon. I really wanted a second hay wagon so that when I went to cut the hay field, I had at least 2 wagons to pile the hay up and then maybe I wouldn't have to just immediately stack it in the barn. I could just leave it on the wagon for a day or two till I got the time to actually stack it in the barn. And you can see this obviously is not a hay wagon, but it does have a good set of running gear underneath it. It's got 4 good tires. And I think in the future, the original plan was that I thought this would be a nice project, and I could extend the running gear, make the axles actually farther apart from each other, make it longer, and then build a bigger deck on the top of it, and I could turn this into a hay wagon. So this wagon here is a barge wagon. It has a hoist underneath it, and I'm sure there's several different names for what this type of wagon's called, but basically it's a dump wagon. And a little dump trailer is what it is. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, you know, I could probably use this the way that it is. It could be very handy. So if I'm cutting firewood, I could load this thing up with firewood. I could and then be able to haul it to the firewood pile and dump it. If I'm cutting up brush or clearing an area, I could probably cut all those limbs and that brush. I could probably pile them into this wagon, haul them off to the burn pile, and then dump them at the burn pile to be burnt later. And then with the animals and the livestock, all the wasted hay and the manure, if I'm cleaning out something, I could scoop all that up. I could load it into this trailer and then take it over to the compost pile and dump it there. So I think it could turn out to be fairly handy. So I decided to take the end gate off of the wagon because it would just end up being in the way of trying to unload logs or brush or hay. And it didn't end up going exactly the way I had planned, did it? So I got the end gate unbolted, and I went to lift on it, and it was too heavy and awkward for me to be able to just lift off by hand. So I decided I'd make a couple lifting points for it, that I would weld on a couple of lifting points so I could lift it off with the tractor. And then when I went to get on the wagon to weld them on, when I pulled on the side, it stretched the side out enough that it was able to just fall out right onto the concrete. Exactly what I didn't want to happen, and right onto my brand new concrete here. Luckily, I don't see any damage. I don't see any chips in the concrete. I don't think I broke anything. So I think I got fairly lucky there, but exactly what I was trying to prevent from happening ended up happening. So I went ahead and I took those lifting points. I went ahead and welded those on there, and that made it easier for me to carry off. But if I want to put that back on later, it'll definitely make it easier for me to reattach that to the wagon and do that by myself. So first thing in the morning, we're gonna give this wagon a test. We're gonna head out to the hayfield. We're gonna start trimming all the trees around the edge of the field high enough up that I can get under them with the tractor. We're gonna pile this thing full of tree limbs and haul them off and see if this thing will dump it right next to the brush pile. So if it'll do that, I think it'll work out for pretty much anything I wanna do. So I've got all the limbs trimmed here on the north side of the hayfield. I tried to cut them as high as I could reach with the pole saw without having to put the extension on there. I think that'll be high enough to clear the cab of the tractor. I'm pretty sure that I'm reaching probably close to 9 feet tall without the extension. So that should be plenty high enough. So the next thing to do is going to be to pick up all these limbs, load them into the trailer and see if it'll dump. So when I load these, I'm going to try to put the stems pointing toward the back and the top of the limbs pointing forward. And then that way, the limbs are angled, hopefully they'll slide out of the wagon easier, it'll dump easier. So I'm not sure if this will all fit in one load or not, but I think I got a pretty good amount here. So let's go ahead and start loading this up. Got a fairly good sized load, I think. I don't want to pack it in there too tight. I want it to be loose enough that it'll slide out. So go ahead, take this up front, see if we can get it to dump. Well, I think that worked out about as well as I expected it to. I knew it wasn't going to dump the limbs into a nice big pile, okay? So I knew I'd have to end up pulling forward to get the limbs to slide out of the back of the trailer. So you'd end up leaving a long trail of limbs. So yeah, I think it worked out about as well as I thought it would. I'm good with that, really, I am. I think that it's close enough that I can take the bucket of the tractor and I can just push the limbs on top of the brush pile and everything will be just fine. So I think I'm good with that. So let's go ahead. We'll head back there and get another load. Well, for 250 bucks, I think I'm pretty happy with what I got. I think for right now, I'm just going to leave it the way it is and use it like a little dump trailer for now. And I'll probably still eventually turn this into a hay wagon. But if I do, I'll probably make it where I can at least put some sides back on it and still use it as a dump trailer. But it'll just have a lot bigger bed. That is a pretty small bed, really. Seems like it is. Doesn't hold too much. But it's better than nothing. It's better than having to unload it by hand. So anyway, that's my latest little purchase here on the property. And I think can come in handy. So these wagons can be fairly difficult to back up. I know a lot of people struggle backing these up. I struggle backing these up. There's usually a lot of cussing involved when you're backing up one of these trailers. And the reason that is, I don't think a lot of people understand, but the axles on here, the front axle is a turning axle. It steers with the tongue of the trailer. So as you're backing up your tractor, you're also steering the wagon. And the problem is when you back your tractor to the left, it steers the wagon to the right. So they're constantly trying to go away from each other and try to jackknife. So you're constantly trying to battle that so that you don't jackknife the trailer and try to keep it under control. And it's definitely a challenge backing one of these up. So I have to back the hay wagon up to get it in the barn to unload it. The barn that we have is not a drive-through barn. A lot of hay barns are made where you can just drive straight through and unload them, and you don't ever have to back up the hay wagon. Well, here that's not the case. So I've always had to back the hay wagon in there. And that's definitely, I guess that's definitely gave me some challenge, gave me some experience. So I'm slowly getting used to it. I think I'm slowly getting better at it, but it's still, no matter how hard I try, I can never get it the first time, it seems like. It seems like I always got to pull forward, try again. And it usually takes me 3 or 4 times before I can finally get that, backed up to where I want it. If I'm doing good. 3 or 4 times is if I'm doing good. Sometimes it may take 20 or 30 times at the beginning. It's definitely a challenge learning how to back one of these up. So I haven't been using the Case tractor too much lately because it has a problem with the power steering pump. It just squalls. When you rev it up all the way at full RPM, it just squalls the belt, the power steering pump. So I have to run it at a really low RPM. And today, I still had more problems with it even at a low RPM. Backing this up, I was having to do some fairly tight turns, and that thing got to squalling, and it got to where the steering was even getting hard to steer. So it definitely has a problem. So it's more than I think simply a belt, because it's a brand new belt that I put on last year. So I think what I'm going to have to end up doing is I'm finally going to have to just tear into this and see if I can rebuild the power steering pump, maybe have to get into the steering gearbox. But yeah, this tractor, I've been kind of babying it here lately because of the power steering pump. And I don't want to tear into it right now because in case I need it for hay season, I can still rake with it at a low RPM and it works just fine. But yeah, I'm going to definitely have to tear into the Case tractor. At least by this winter, we're going to be working on this thing in the garage and maybe see if we can get it tuned up a little bit better, at least see if we can get the power steering pump and everything working the way it should. So anyway, it is hot out here. It is sunny. And I think that's it for me, guys. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.